Dyslexia, the very word I like to describe as a conundrum. People that know of it overcompensate for it, and people that don't really know of it steer clear of you like you've got some hideous disease. How I like to describe dyslexia to a regular person is, we don't have enough RAM in our brains, a bit like a computer, but that doesn't mean we're slow, it just means it's harder to process stuff. My mum even had to see a psychiatrist when she was just 4 years old. That is absolutely ridiculous. The school thought she was insane. So, who am I? My name's Jonah Ripley. I present Tech Hunters online for Engadget. I co-present with Julia Hardy from BBC Radio 1. I've been on a lot of television programmes over the years, even winning some. I was on The Intern with Hilary Devey, the lady with the big shoulder pads from Dragon's Den. She was alright. I want to send us back in time. I want everyone to watch this clip of Grange Hill from back in the 1980s. They've got dyslexia all wrong.
I don't even want to read about them. It's only a little
Look, shut up, will ya? The reason I don't want to read it is because I can't read.
What?
You heard, I can't read. Satisfied?
But I think Simon has a perceptual disorder, sometimes called dyslexia.
What's that?
Well, roughly. No one knows for sure. But somehow your brain is not registering exactly what your eyes are seeing. It becomes slightly distorted.
Like those funny mirrors at the fair, sir?
Yeah, something like that.
But can it be fixed? I mean, with an operation or something.
I don't know. But I don't think it's quite as drastic as that. You'll need special tuition, of course. But we should get it sorted out in time.
I've come to talk to Adam Partington, a journalist for the Independent newspaper and a television presenter. He's a genuine dyslexic. I want to know Adam's thoughts about dyslexia and schools.
Does it surprise you that kids slip under the radar now at school and go undiagnosed, and they go out through their lives and then have to get diagnosed now and then realise and think, oh, I wasn't? Because they've obviously sat there as well, the kids, and they've come out the education system, and they must have either thought they were... when I come about, I thought I was insane. I genuinely did. I segregated myself. Because the school didn't want to diagnose me, and I was only just diagnosed in 2013.
Right.
That's quite a long way away from being at school, and I mean, does that surprise you that kids go out and...
I think it does, because when we think about like time, and we think that we just continuously make progress, and we do in some places, but in other places we regress. That's just the nature of society.
Yeah.
There'll be things that we potentially did in the 70s that are actually better than what we do now.
Yeah.
And that might be the case. I like to think that it's a continuous process, and the authorities learn from the mistakes they make.
Sure.
It potentially has the same issue as mental health, where you can't see it. That's an issue, and it's quite hard to define sometimes. And you've got an avalanche of historical kind of like attitudes towards it. He's just a bit stupid. So it's got all this going on, and it's got to try and battle it. And I don't think it does surprise me. And the reason why I say that is because I don't think schooling has changed enough. I still think we have these really kind of historic attitudes towards schooling, as it's just a case of still, you've got to recite what we tell you.
To hear Adam's attitude was very refreshing and inspirational about what he does in his day-to-day life. I've travelled all the way up to Leeds to come and meet Beverly Barton, head of Dyslexia Action in Leeds. She's been teaching students with dyslexia for over 20 years.
I have seen many students where the teachers have said the student is not very bright or lazy, and when we've done an assessment they're actually quite severely dyslexic. But these days we think we see more children where there are more co-occurring difficulties, perhaps dyspraxia, perhaps autistic spectrum, that type of issues as well. So there's a kind of mix of things, and sometimes it can be quite difficult to work out what is causing what and how to actually help that child to make the progress that they should.
What's one of the most key factors about when you see another dyslexic? How do you personally yourself differentiate them from someone who hasn't got it? Do they give off sort of an aura, if you like, and go, oh, you've definitely got it? Or is it quite difficult sometimes?
Sometimes it's quite tricky. We use specialised tests, either done by teachers or by ed psychs, and we're looking at things like memory. Almost all dyslexics have great difficulty with memory, particularly transferring information from short-term to long-term memory. Processing speed. If you have a very, very, very slow processing speed, and some of our students certainly do, then by the time the teachers finish the sentence, you might have forgotten what the beginning of the sentence was, and so you spend all your time thinking, what am I supposed to be doing next? And so a lot of students are sitting there completely puzzled because they haven't managed to work at the same speed as everyone else.
I'm off to meet one of my oldest friends, Kieran, who I went to primary school with. He left school as well, not being diagnosed with dyslexia the same as myself. He was ridiculed at school as a joke constantly, and nobody listened. Just to hear his story is absolutely shocking.
Growing up, Kieran, I went to school with you, and it's coming up to around, I think, about 15 years ago now at primary school.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously where it started, really, with diagnosis and all that. They didn't do that to you.
No, they didn't. No.
What kind of happened there?
I don't know, they just missed the ball, mate. They didn't help me with anything, and then because I didn't understand and I didn't get the right help, I used to play up to like the teachers and that, because they wasn't practically sitting down with me and showing me the way to read. When I go out travelling or go to a restaurant, I have to ask someone to read it for me. So it takes over your life. It's quite embarrassing when you're on the train, you have to ask someone, am I on the right platform, can you read that for me? Puts you back. A lot of people diagnose with ADHD because you're naughty, because obviously you're finding it hard reading that, so you act out, and then straight away if it ain't, they don't want to, they just act out, don't they? And say, you're ADHD, you ain't dyslexic, and that's what happened to me a couple of times.
Did it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting. So when you were diagnosed with sort of ADHD and things like that, did they make you take all the prescription drugs and things like that, even though you were...
Yeah, and then they found out it was different.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, because I was acting up all the time because I couldn't read. No one turned around and went, is it your read? Like, can't you read? No, they just said it was ADHD and lumped me with that instead.
That was absolutely devastating to hear. In the 21st century, less than 20 years ago, that happened. How many millions of children is this happening to now? I've come back to London to meet Alex Tate, UK's top dyslexia expert and tutor at Oxford University. Alex Tate diagnosed me on television in just 2013.
Is dyslexia an invisible disability?
The word disability, another one of our dis words, has that sort of double-edged side. I think on the one hand it can be really powerful to sort of acknowledge that something exists, however invisible it may be. On the other hand, putting everything under this disability label can sometimes create a bit of a stigma.
Alex, the key thing is, do you think the education system's doing enough for dyslexics at school?
There's still a lot of people who slip through, partly because we talked about the signs. They may not have made it very obvious. One of the huge areas I still feel is girls and dyslexia, because they learn to hide their dyslexia behind a mask of anonymity. They don't make themselves too obvious in class. They can write neat work. They can sort of present stuff that looks okay. And because they're not kicking up a fuss, unlike some dyslexic boys, they can disappear off the radar. And there should be no reason why there are any more dyslexic boys than dyslexic girls, but diagnosis is still very heavily towards boys as opposed to girls, as it is in a lot of different areas.
So Alex, looking into the world of dyslexia, in 2010 it's officially announced that dyslexia is a disability under the Disabilities Act. I didn't know that myself. Do you think that dyslexia is treated as a disability?
I think there's been a lot of positive changes, a lot more awareness, still a long way to go.
Alex, are you surprised that children still slip through the net today in this educational world?
So I am not surprised, but it's disappointing that people still slip through. I think our education system, unfortunately, recently has made a bit of a shift into an area that doesn't work well for dyslexics, in that we're going down this very exam-heavy route. Which is a great shame because it puts a lot of pressure on dyslexics when it comes to time management and organisation and memory, all of which are important, but actually in real life, are they going to be the big factors?